So good morning, everyone. I hope you've had the chance, if you weren't on last night's call with Richard Bliss-Brooke and Mike DiMuccio, I do seriously recommend you watching the recording. I've been watching the recording of it this morning, and it's absolutely fantastic, the counsel and direction that Richard gives in building our businesses, getting people started, dealing with team culture. I love the idea of setting some rules. I'm going to sit down, I think, and make a recommendation of some rules that we can have as a team as to how we govern ourselves, what we consider as acceptable or not, to really strengthen our culture of behavior. I really, really liked that. There are a couple of points, and for the, I know I can see some faces here that were on the call last night as well. You may want to, if you wish, put in the chat or raise your hand some of the points that you really particularly liked from last night too. Just as a quick recap, to tease and encourage others that weren't on to check it out, because like I said, it was definitely, it's time well spent. One of the things that I liked that Richard said last night was, when we're building new people up, getting them started, if they come to you with questions, it's not our responsibility as leaders or as the sponsor to answer all their questions. Go figure it out, was his answer, in a polite way, is what he would say. Yeah, is you know, how do I become a silver? Well, that's a great question. Go figure it out, right? And I thought that was really good counsel, because he said what we want to do, of course, is encourage people to become independent as quickly as possible. And if we answer every question, then what does that mean? It means that they're going to come to us with every question that they've got, and then everyone else that we bring in is going to do the same, and so on and so on and so on. And we create this wonderful burden on our back that we carry around with us, where we have to be the one person responsible for our entire team that answers all their questions. I saw this in action yesterday afternoon in doing a a power ABC. I'd call it that because it was a power ABC, because we had the distributor who had their guests. They had a couple of guests, a few guests, but they had their upline, who was Sophia DiMuccio, who would be the A. Yeah, but we also had her upline, who was Mike, and his upline, who was me. So we had a bit of a team power ABC to get these guys up and going. And we've done a couple of these recently. And Sophia's been doing an incredible job of bringing multiple people to these ABC meetings. Typically, these ABCs that I've done in the past have been, you know, 1, 2, 3 people. It's been 3 people. She's been getting rooms with more people than, you know, 5, 6, 7 people in the room, which is just phenomenal. She's doing a great job. But one thing that she did on Friday, I'll jump to Friday and then I'll jump to Monday. We had one of these calls on Friday. One thing that she did that I was really impressed with was, when it came to talk about the product, she jumped in and she was answering some product questions. One of the guests asked a question at the end of the presentation about the product. Now, Sophia's 3 months into the business, and she jumped in and gave the best explanation of what pie water is I've probably ever heard. And then she talked about one of the favorite products in Nikken, Immunity, and why it's so popular, and talked about its ingredients, where they come from, and what makes that so special and important. And I was blown away. And as we talked about this, this came up, and I kind of raised this a little bit on Monday and said how impressed I was with her product explanations. And she said, well, I just researched the answers, the questions. And I think what her father, Mike, has done is said, go look up your answers. You know where to go research it. And so she gets the information that she can from Nikken. She'll go to the label, she'll look it up, and then she'll go to Google. Okay, this is this ingredient. What does that mean? Is there any research that has been done with this particular ingredient? What does that mean here? Where does that come from? And she researches and gets all sorts of information so that she can speak professionally on the subject. And as a consequence, she's become very well informed. And I think that was a great lesson for me, because what she then did was she was able to encourage these brand new people that are considering being in the business and saying, hey, look, in 3 months' time, you can sound as informed, as educated, and as confident as I am. And not because I've taken a class or I've been through a training course, because I took responsibility for myself to be a leader of my own business and to be a leader of my own success. And I thought that was really interesting. So yeah, I liked, she really, the reason I shared that story is because she really embodied that principle that Richard Bliss Brooke was talking about when he said, if you want to know the answer, go research it, go find it, go figure it out, take responsibility. Really, really important to do that. And that's what she's been doing. And as a result, I think she could probably teach a lot of us that have been in the business for some time some new things that we may not have known based on the research that she's done, which is great. So, okay, we've got some quotes here from the video of last night. Lorraine said, the quote of the day, today I block out distractions and remain committed to my tasks. I love that. We were talking about that just before we hit the record button. Gita has said, to succeed in the first 90 days is motivation. Yes, that first 90 days is critical. And by the way, what do we do if we've been in the business longer than 90 days? Does that count that out for us? No, it doesn't. This is the principle, I think, of living a day at a time, living in this now, this, I say a day at a time, this circadian rhythm that humans kind of live to, where we are awake during the day and we sleep at night. We live in these patterns, don't we, of daily patterns, weekly patterns, monthly patterns, seasonal patterns, annual patterns, and what have you. And we're used to these rhythms and cycles. And as a consequence of that, we need to understand that if our first 90 days, or perhaps if we've been around in the business for a number of years, the last 90 days hasn't been what we wanted it to be, that today can be the first day of our next 90 days. Isn't that great? Is that encouraging? Yeah. If we have a garbage day, we can draw a line in the sand and say, today is the first day of the rest of our lives. And we're going to have the next 90 days really count. So yes, those first 90 days count. If we didn't make them count, start today. Start today, make it happen. I love that. Linda has said, our mind can tell us a story about ourselves that we believe is true. Yes. And of course, as we know, that can be a good thing or it can be a devastatingly bad thing, can't it? The stories that we tell ourselves that we believe, that's the hardest thing. I think one of the biggest barriers to our success is our perceptions of ourselves, who we think we are. Yeah, and this was something, when I was in the corporate office, when I worked, not just in Niken, but in every corporate role that I've worked in network marketing, one of my jobs, whenever I would travel, would be I'd get up on stage, of course, I'd speak at the events, I'd give the announcements, I'd do all that kind of stuff that happened, do the recognition. But then afterwards, I'm always meeting with leaders, I'm meeting with distributors and so on. And it would always be that one-on-one or group interaction that would happen in between while I was there. And that was an essential part of the duty, is to connect and to get feedback from everyone. How are you doing? What's going on? During that time, excuse a little bit of background noise with my excitable 5-year-old. and it sounds like my little baby's making some excited noise too. But during that time, I would have this, there would be this habit that I just came to expect, as it was part of the job, is people would always come to me and say, Ben, let me tell you what's not working in the business, right? And let me tell you what we need in order to make it work. And the interesting thing was, whether it was in this market or the next, whether it was with new people or older, more established people, the answers were always different. In fact, I remember when I first joined Amway as their general manager in the UK, I remember going to an event once, and I thought, I set up this leaders event so I could get to know the leadership of the market, build relationships, and get acquainted with them. So it was a weekend away, and I thought, we always meet in hotels in this industry, don't we? So let's do something different. Let's make this memorable. So we hired an English castle. I did some cost comparisons, of course, to the typical hotel that we would have been renting. And surprisingly, it wasn't too different in price. So I thought, I'm doing this. We'll hire this castle. We hired this castle. We had this medieval banquet. We had butlers there. And it was just this phenomenal event. And but I used the time after dinner, of course, to sit down, get acquainted, and chat. And of course, what did they do? I remember sitting down at this table, and the Amway leaders, just as an FYI, these guys, they don't hold back, right? They've created this revenue that they create because they've got thick skin, yeah, and they're straight talkers, these guys. So here I was general manager of Amway. I was 29 years old. That's pretty young, right, to be in that position. So I was sat with these guys. Some of them had been in the business almost as long as I'd been alive, right, as distributors. And so on this particular occasion, I was sat, there was about 10 or 11 of them on the table with me. And all of a sudden, the subject became, let me tell you, Ben, what you need to do to make this business work, right? Because there are things that we're not happy with, right? And since we're all leaders here, we can be quite candid and just, call a spade a spade. And so all of a sudden it became a regurgitation of history. Life was great when we had this tool. Life was great, Ben, when we were doing this. When we had this feature or we had that feature, life was fantastic. Ben, if we could just get this. And then we went around the table. I didn't facilitate that. It just kind of organically developed. They just went around the table. Ben, when we had this partnership with this one particular celebrity that really gave us credibility, right? If we could get that type of partnership again, that would be great. No, Ben, no, what really we need is the website to have this function. Right now, our website is garbage. If we just had this, it would really work. No, I was fine. Doesn't affect my business at all. Ben, this is the issue, right? And it went on like this for a long time, right? Right? And then they could see eventually, wait a second, none of us are agreeing. Every single one of them had a different reason as to what would make the business work. Why do I tell the story? I want to fast forward now to a point in my career where I had at that point, I had now traveled to nearly 30 different countries representing the companies that I've worked for, working with small audiences and audiences into the thousands, right? And I've made this statement, and it's always met with 100% unanimous agreement when I've done it, whether it's been in France, whether it's been in America, whether it's been in Eastern Europe, Latin America, wherever it's been, there's always been 100% agreement that the statement is true. We may talk about all of those different things, product pricing, shipping times, the way the website works, this, that, and the other. But the number one biggest obstacle to us building our business and getting the results that we want is our belief in ourselves. Yes or no? And everyone has always said yes. The biggest barrier to my success is what lies and resides between my ears. It's what I think of me. It's what I think of me. So the challenge that we face in order to really move forward is, how do I change that and get it to a point where I can really conquer this and get the results that I want in my business? Now, we talked about that a little bit last week. We also talked about it if you're on the Ladies Leading Ladies call, which is recorded and uploaded onto their website. You can go there as well, where I talked about, we often focus on the end of the story, what that looks like. Maybe that might be that I'm qualified at Diamond, I've got a certain level of income, and I've got that freedom of time to move around and travel comfortably and just live a certain lifestyle, whatever it may be. We can get that crystal clear, many people, but what we don't get crystal clear is the starting point. How do I start? And the real trick to success is not to have just simply a clear vision. I think we overstress that. We need to have that clear vision. We need to know what we're working towards. The why is essential. And when we write that down for us and for others, you know, why did you join? What do you want out of this? I want an extra, as Richard said last night, I want an extra $1,000 a month. We don't stop there and say, okay, let's work with that. We've got to dig a little deeper, haven't we? And say, well, why? What does having an extra $1,000 a month do for me or do for you? What does that facilitate? What does that create for me? What will I do with that in order for that to be so life-changing, in order for that to be something that I really, really want? We need to dig in and get the answers to that. Then when we understand what that really means, what the value of that is, then we go back to the starting point. Now, like I said, the starting point for many is ambiguous. James Clear said that the solution is that we master the art of showing up. Yeah, master the art of showing up. It doesn't mean that we have to conquer and win the entirety of the day, which is fantastic, isn't it? When we look at it in that context, because many of us, when in my mentoring experience, when I say, what are your goals and your plans for the year? The deadline is typically December 31st. Yeah. End of play, end of the year, December 31st. Okay. So, but that's a long way away for many people. And there are plenty of moments between now and then, even starting now in September. There are plenty of moments between now and December 31st for me to fail, isn't there? And that feeds that battlefield, as Linda Morse refers to it as, the battlefield of the mind. I love that phrase, Linda. Yeah. So if I've got this huge period of time that I'm giving myself to work within, there are plenty of moments there for me to fail and for me to place emphasis on my failures. Yeah. Because my mind will often gravitate to what went wrong versus what went right. So if I master the art of showing up and focus on the first few minutes of core activities, then what happens is it gives me some quick wins that are visible, present, and immediate. And what does that do? That starts to give me confidence. My confidence leads to more action. Action leads to more results. Results lead to more evidence. Evidence leads to better results and more confidence. And it becomes a virtuous circle where all of a sudden I now start to really believe, yeah, I've got this. I can do this. Yeah, and things start to change. So I think that's a real essential starting point. Now, interestingly, I wanted to talk today about leadership and kind of taking this and kind of distilling it on, passing it on to our teams. What do we do in our team environments when we're working with people? We've talked about a couple of things that Richard Bliss Brooke did. I wanted to take just the first few minutes. I've ended up taking a little bit longer in promoting his video, but I think it's well worth it. Mike's posted another one this morning to watch first. I've already checked that out. Look at that video too. It's a great story of pursuing on purpose your own financial independence and creating your own plan for your own life. It's a great tool that we can use in sharing with others and building our businesses and also helping in the battlefield of our own minds, again, to quote Linda, reinforce and entrench ourselves in the right place, doing the right things. Okay, so I want to ask you a question now that we've got this little bit of feedback from last night. I want to ask you a question. I'm going to ask three, really. What is a leader? What do they do? And how do they feel? Because, again, this comes back to this culture of what are we creating in Niken, in our business? What I would like to see created is a culture where everyone, especially those on these calls, because as I look at my screen today, I always have it up. If you're watching the recordings, you always see that I have it on gallery view. Why? Because I prefer to look at you than look at myself. And I know it's not necessarily designed for me, but I'd like other people that are watching this to see other people on the call as well, because I just think it's helps people to connect to the wider team. But my interest is that everyone that watches these calls, that participates in these calls, I say watch, meaning watching the recordings, everyone that engages with these, that they all feel that they are not just participants in a team, members of a team, but also that they are leaders of a team. I would love it if everyone that was watching, that was here today, all of you that we all know each other, quite well now, that we all see ourselves and we all see each other sincerely, authentically, as meaningful, valued leaders and contributors, not passive participants. Yeah, engaged, meaningful, authentic, sincere leaders. What would that be like if you looked at this? Just look at the screen for now, just for a second. Put it into gallery view if you haven't done it yet. Look at this group and see everyone as a leader of a business, of this business, of their businesses. Everyone here are collectively leaders, and we are a team of leaders. How does that change when we just look at it when compared to we're all participating in a webinar, or we're all here to listen to Ben? Yeah, it changes it, doesn't it? We're all here as leaders. For me, it takes the sense of strength and the fire and power of potential that we have as a group, and it takes it from this, and just in saying it, I feel it expand. As I look and I go, this is a team of leaders, I feel it grow. And if we could really authentically feel that and then act and respond accordingly, what power we could give to ourselves and to our teams as a consequence. Because here's a really interesting principle about power and leadership. When we understand the true nature of leadership, we recognize that power is limitless. And what I mean by that is that power isn't restricted to an individual that holds a rank or a title or a position. Not if they're using that position correctly, if they're using that influence correctly, because true leadership is all about empowering others. Yeah, which means if I, as a leader, am striving to empower everyone on this call, everyone within my circle of influence, to be as effective and as successful as possible, they are empowered. Then what happens? Then the power multiplies. It doesn't contract. I'm not giving away parts of my power and leaving me powerless because I'm passing on the power to someone else. That's not how it works. It's an expansive principle. Yeah. So really what leadership is all about is it's not just about giving direction. It's not just about having a vision and saying, this is where we're going. It's about inclusiveness. Because for me to bring people to a state of being empowered, then you're saying, this is the power that I have and I'm sharing it with you. I don't pass the baton on. I bring people in to the fire so that the fire can burn brightly. Yeah. When that one log falls out of the fireplace onto the hearth, what happens? Not too long before the fire burns out on that log. Yeah. But everyone else that's all together, the fire burns much brighter. I'll share a quick example of how people missed the mark here. I was in a crisis meeting a number of years ago, again, when I was in Amway. I'm jumping back to a couple of Amway stories here. But we had this crisis. I've shared it with you a number of years ago, probably many times over, when the government wanted to shut the market down. A little bit like one of these FTC investigation things. We had one when I was general manager. It was a big deal, major investigation, caught the industry's attention all over the world because it went on for 12 months. So it was an industry kind of caught everyone's attention. So anyway, I'm in this crisis meeting and we've got external lawyers, like specialist lawyers. We've got our internal legal counsel. We've got our external affairs, which are basically PR teams. We've got our marketing people. We've got our sales teams. We've got our internal legal counsel from the head office in the US that's taken up residence in the UK. You name all these different members of the committee that form this crisis team, right? And everyone's talking, they're giving their opinions. And of course, Amway's a big company. It's a multi-billion-dollar business, and we're having to reinvent this market in order to win the court case. What does this mean? It means that there are a lot of people there that are wanting to have their thumbprint on the change, yeah? So that when the change happens, they can go, that's me, yeah? That was my spot. I did that. That was my contribution. I get that. It was both a tense time, but an exciting time of creating significant change. Anyway, a lot of people had a lot of opinions. Then in walks, he was running late from a previous meeting. In walks the vice president or the president and managing director of Europe into the meeting, and who, as soon as he comes in, he's now the chair of the meeting, right? Because he's the one that has the biggest rank. That's him. He's the guy in charge, and he's an impressive guy. Knows his stuff so well. He's got a knack for finding a needle in a haystack, right? That's just a gift of his. He's just very intelligent. And he's one of these guys, if I can say this appropriately, that he's a slick dresser. Looks like he could be on the cover of a GQ magazine, right? And not just looking like a businessman, for the sake of the GQ magazine. He's the smartest guy in the room as well. Sharp guy. Got a great deal of respect for him. Anyway, he walks in, and this is what happens. I noticed that all the power in the room just went, and everyone just surrendered their power, their influence to him. And I thought, oh, that was interesting. All of a sudden, their confidence went down a little bit because they thought, oh, I don't want to be as outspoken as I was before in case I'm wrong, right? In case he corrects me. And there was just that little bit of a power shift when he came in that was maybe subtle and unnoticeable to others, but I picked up on it. Why did the power shift? Because the reality is, it didn't need to. There was a great deal of power in the room. Everyone had great responsibilities, great titles, great experience, and now we've got someone else coming that could add fire and fuel to the fire to make it even more powerful. That's what leadership's all about. But instead, they diminished themselves in order to give him the power base. What a shame. He didn't ask them to do that. They just chose to do that. Yeah. But my suggestion is this, is that power in leadership is limitless. When we understand who we are and who we are in relation to the collective team, we don't need to diminish ourselves. We don't diminish ourselves. Okay? In doing so, we don't serve anyone, be it ourselves or the collective whole, any better. So my invitation is, don't diminish ourselves and say, I'm not a leader or I'm less than compared to, because that's what they did. They had great confidence in their leadership. I'm a great leader. Oh, compared to him, less than. And they diminished. We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. So my invitation is, rise to the full measure of your leadership. Own it and contribute with full sense of participation in this group and in every way you can in your business, so that others can be stretched and grow and shine from the light that you radiate from your leadership. Because as that light radiates out, others will grow, through their associations. That's what happens, isn't it? So I think that's something for, like I said, that we can all take away today, is that leadership is something that we need to step into and rise up to. We need to, again, battle the enemy within in order to conquer that and to confront it. And I would say, if any of you are struggling with, how do I do that? Let's have some conversations. Yeah. Or at least say, yeah, I've got some barriers here. Can we discuss this in one of our next calls? Yeah, how to break down some of these negative beliefs, because there are fundamentally some core negative broken beliefs, universal broken beliefs that people adhere to that hold them back. All or nothing thinking, catastrophizing, negative self-labeling, discounting the positives, living in the past, discounting, I just said discounting the positives, if statements, if I did this, they should do that, or should statements, they should do this, all these types of things that just hold people back. And there's strategy, fortunately, behind how we can identify them and eliminate them. And I think this is part of us becoming great leaders, is breaking down some of these barriers that we have internally so that we can then go on to confront the best version of ourselves. And I do mean confront in the legitimate sense. It's scary to become the best version. Being empowered as a leader is frightening. It's frightening. I've had another experience again, being empowered, where I was with another company. Again, I'm using a couple of corporate experiences here, but they're just kind of relevant on the subject of leadership development. Another company, I'm with the owner of the business. It's $1 billion company. We're flying from one country to the next with the owner, me and my business partner, with the company owner, the CEO, in the corporate jet, right? So we're flying in the corporate jet, talking about pricing strategies over how to get some of these things fixed in the business that we felt were wrong. And he turns to me and he says, okay, Ben, not a problem. We sat down, we were kind of on the plane. It's got these 2 seats. You can swivel them around at the front. Then you got the kind of the panel seating at the back where we're kind of facing each other. We've got our papers in front of us. And he goes, okay, which of the products are the ones where the prices aren't right? Well, okay, we're there, this one. Okay, so we've got to get our pricing right, our profit margin, but we've got to get it right for the customer, the distributor. We've got to, of course, maintain the PV, get all of these different numbers all need to line up. We need to get it fixed. Okay, go to. And this is what he does. He goes, you've told me that this is going to fix it. If we get these prices right, it'll fix the problem. Well, you're in charge. So I expect that if this is what you say, this is what will happen. I'm empowering you. I'm empowering you. I'm going to follow your lead. If you're suggesting that we make these changes, I will make these changes under your direction because I'm empowering you. You're the leader in charge. But the consequence lies with you. If it doesn't create the change that you're saying it does, the responsibility of that, Ben, is on you. All of a sudden, when you're flying in a corporate jet with the owner of that jet saying that, pointing the finger at you, you feel the heat when he goes, the responsibility of that is on you. Do you understand? I was like, yes. All of a sudden you're going, you start to second guess. You say, is this the real issue? Is it? Maybe it's something else. No, it is the real issue. It is the real issue. And yeah, it is. He says, okay, good. And he said, so go to work on those numbers. I'm going to take a nap. And he leans back in his chair and takes a sleep until we get to our next destination, leaving me to sweat and panic in working out those numbers. But like I said, I share that because being empowered can feel liberating and intimidating. It's liberating because it frees us to make the right choices. But it's also intimidating because we are responsible with the consequences. It ends on us. It finishes with us. The buck stops here. Yeah. So as we walk into, with open arms, the full potential of our leadership and our role as leaders, and say, okay, Ben, I'm going to be a strong and empowered leader. I'm not going to be a passive participant. I'm going to be a strong and engaged leader. I'm going to walk, talk, think, and act like who I should be. Yes, it's going to be liberating. It's also going to be a little bit scary too. That's okay. That's okay. But if we all feel that sense of responsibility in what we do and how we build, my goodness me, our businesses will change. I want to conclude with Sophia. She's searching out the answers to her own questions. She's got a dad that's got the best track record in Nikan, hasn't he? If you look at everyone that's in Nikan presently, he's one of the top income earners. He's got the greatest legacy. He's opened multiple markets. He's been at the forefront of many, many things here in Nikan. She could easily rely on the fact that she was being brought up, born, birthed, trained, and schooled by him throughout her life. Great advantage. I've got him as my coach and mentor, far closer than anyone else might have as a mentor, because he's my dad. Yeah. But what does she do? She goes out and researches and gets her own answers. She owns her own success. So her success doesn't depend on her dad's contribution. She's an empowered, self-empowered leader. A self-empowered leader that gets the answers to her questions, gets the people to her meetings, gets them to show up, and gets people turning up to help her out. She drives it, she asks for help, she goes when she needs it, but often she leads it herself in creating that right formula for her group. It's impressive. If we can follow that type of example, we can get similar results. She's doing it now already. She's got 2 new silvers. She's a silver already herself. She's got 2 new silvers, and she's got multiple people that she's speaking to in these group ABCs in her team on a weekly basis, multiple times. She's running. So we can do it too. She's teaching us that it can be done. So I've gone way over time. Thank you very much for being patient with my extra time. I hope this has been helpful. Like I said, my goal is I would just love it if we all felt, rather than just coming to listen to Ben, when we all get on this call, we all go, we're all coming here together because collectively as a team, we are empowered leaders that have power to make a difference, power to change, and the ability to get things done. And if we don't know where to go, we have the resources within us to figure it out, to get the answers ourselves, because we are self-sufficient and powerful people. This is great. We can do this. Yeah. And when we act like that, think like that, that will feed into our teams, that will feed into our businesses. And we would love to see that just have an incredible ripple effect across the lives of many people. So thank you very much. Thank you. I've just got a quick point here. Would love to hear more on future sessions to break down and help rid the blocks. Okay, Dee, excellent, noted. Let's talk in future sessions about what we can do. I think, yeah, there she is. What we can do to break down some of these mental roadblocks in order to really become these great leaders. Okay, so we will address that. Thank you very much, Dee. Cool. So love you all, and we will speak next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.